I want to focus a little bit on the nuts and bolts of practice, again, because I know you guys are really good at this in Camden. If we're going to think about working with this age group in a way which is absolutely resilience oriented, relationships are the key to that. Relationships are paramount to promoting resilience. I will briefly note that resilience is not an innate character trait. It's not fairy dust we can sprinkle on a person, and it's definitely not code for cuts, nor is it a substitute for support. I like the Pooley and Cohen definition of resilience, where they define it as using your internal and external resources to rebound from adversity. So it's what you've got in you and what you've got around you. One of the things that's really strongly associated with resilience is self-efficacy. So self-esteem is, knowing your worth, thinking you're a bit good. Self-efficacy is knowing you have a little bit of mastery or control, that you're in charge in some way of your life. And the way we work with young people and young adults can either serve to enhance their self-efficacy or to inadvertently undermine it. When we do 2 people and we do 4 people, we can inadvertently undermine their self-efficacy. So there's a real task here for practitioners across all agencies, and indeed those who manage and supervise and support them, to think about how we can integrate protective practice with participative practice, because we're not really doing one without the other, we might argue. And when we deny young people self-efficacy, something really, really quite scary happens. These 2 quotes here are from the first one there from some work that Helen Beckett and Camille Warrington did, where they talked to young people about their experience of the justice process, particularly those who'd experienced sexual exploitation. And it's full of really heartrending quotes, like young people saying, the abuse was bad, the trial was worse. And we should remember that almost invariably, young people go to trial, when they go to trial, over the age of 18. So often they're experiencing a particularly traumatic part of their life, and because we haven't got a transitional approach, they might be doing that with very, very little support. This young person says, I was basically a puppet. When they wanted me, I had to do it, and when they didn't want me, I heard nothing. This sense of being picked up and dropped, being a pawn in a game. Not what we intended, but it can be their experience. And then Warrington, in her chapter in the Melrose and Pierce book, this quote really made me think. Workers expect you to tell them everything about your lives, but they tell you nothing about theirs. That's how the men work too. They find out everything about you, they don't even tell you their real name. If we don't really carefully think about integrating participative and protective practice with these teenagers, with these young adults, there is a danger that we are replicating or mirroring the very same coercive, controlling context that we went in to rescue them from. And that should stop us in our tracks, colleagues. What might it mean, for example, to take those 6 key principles as set out in the CARE Act that govern all of our work with adults and critically interrogate whether they could apply to our work with teenagers? The notion of empowerment and people being worked with, not done to, absolutely core to work with adults. I wonder what we might import. I wonder what we might bring down to our work with children. Prevention, of course, protection, all familiar words, but proportionality. I don't think we use words like proportionality in our work to safeguard children and young people. Maybe we need to. So there are some frameworks in existence that could be adapted and reflected on to inform our service design. But when I say service design, really I mean system design. And not everything that is about a person's safety and well-being automatically means safeguarding with a capital S. It may be no business of statutory agencies to intervene in some people's lives. What we're looking for here is a whole place offer, not a discrete service. As soon as you use language like service or transition service, you're into stuff like caseloads and throughput and referral criteria, and horrible language like stock and flow starts to creep in. We want a whole place, whole person offer, where the community is part of that system, because communities stick around. About 60% of us still live within 20 miles as adults of where we did when we were 14. Networks matter. So thinking about universal services and the role they play, not just as referring in, but about creating safe spaces, enabling healing, enabling rehabilitation. But also thinking about Camden as a human learning system, to steal Toby Lowe's word. It's about investing in the capacity to learn and adapt and collaborate and make mistakes together and be bold together. And that being really the name of the game.